Omid Djalili, how are you?
I'm very well and very happy to be described as one of your favourite people.
Well, you are, and I'll tell you why. You're funny and you seem to find yourself funny and you enjoy being funny. It seems like comedians these days don't like doing jokes.
I find myself funny. Is that what you just said? I do find myself funny, actually. I used to watch my DVDs. Well, I used to watch my sets, comedy sets, and I used to start off with a Middle Eastern accent. And I found myself really laughing at that. And then when I come out of accent, I thought, it's not funny anymore. So I actually liked it when I did the Arab stuff because it seemed ironic to me. But yes, I do find myself funny sometimes, but a lot of the time I'm very embarrassed. So I know you've seen my DVD now, and I'm very worried about what people think of it because I release DVDs very seldomly.
What I love about you is you seem as if you're almost embarrassed to be a comedian. You have to give a little bit more, like you try and sing and dance. And I say try and sing and dance because you don't do it very well, but well enough to make people laugh.
Yes, that's the whole point. I'm not a good singer and I'm not a very good dancer either, but there's something I think intrinsically funny about an overweight man warbling and then waddling along and doing dances. And I felt I had to do something special. That's why we've got this surprise ending and it all seems weird, and I just feel you've got to give entertainment value these days. There's so many people who do straight stand-up and I think they're really great. I mean, if you were to tell me the people I don't want to just promote them, but there are a lot of comics who I think are much better than me. I find Dara O'Brien very funny. I think Bill Bailey is a genius. I would go and buy their stuff. So I always feel for people to buy my stuff, I've got to give them a little bit extra. And maybe I go too far, I don't know. But it was certainly fun having all these dancers and having a big stupid ending at the end.
To me, though, it's always nice when you've got a comedian that gives a bit of an act. I mean, you're not Omid Djalili the person, you're a characterisation of who you are. Do you know what I mean? And you've created a character that we kind of buy into.
Actually, if you see what I do, is that there's a number of characters that come through. One is this crazy Arab who just talks like this for no reason. And there was a time when I used to try and make people believe I just fresh off the boat. And then I stopped doing it because everyone knew it was the guy. And then I brought it back because people thought there's something even more funny. He doesn't really even talk like this. That people thought was ironically funny. And then breaking away from that and saying, well, actually, my real voice is this office kind of bloke, you know. And then if I keep bringing that up, so you don't really know who I am, but I think you get a good, probably more sense of who I am in this particular DVD. But still, you don't want people to think, oh, I know him, I've sussed him out. You still have to have a couple of surprises up your sleeve.
It's really nice as well that you seem to have come from nothing. I mean, you've only been in our perception for about 5 or 6 years or so, as far as I'm aware, and then you're a movie star. How have you managed it?
Being on the verge of divorce, I think, for the last few years. But I think it's been, I have to say a big thank you to my wife for putting up for that and actually being assisting with it as well, and has seen that there is, you know, I don't like people who take themselves too importantly. I never take things too seriously because I think self-importance comes out of insecurity. When people are very insecure, they have to make out they're very, very important, so people take themselves seriously. So I think that people probably have liked my stuff because they can tell I don't really take it too seriously. I don't even take myself that seriously. But I think that if people offer you stuff and you really want to create something and you want to say something, I think that's where good art comes from, when it comes from a good place. And I think I've always tried to do that. So I won't do a comedy show if I feel I've got something new to say. If I just think I've got another book to bring out or another show just to make money, I won't do it. Like there was a big 3-year gap between the last DVD, and I shot that in 2006, and I shot this one 2 years later. So it was a good couple of years because I didn't have anything more to say. And maybe another 3 or 4 years before I do another one. And I know that frustrates DVD companies and things, but I think you have to be true to yourself as an artist. And I don't believe in just doing it for the money. I've never been in it for the money. And I think even doing Fagin now in Oliver, which is the biggest blockbuster musical I think the West End has seen in many years, it was never for, oh, look, I'll have my name up in lights and, oh, I'll get a nice dressing room. It really is this something I can do? I'm a small cog in a big thing. Can I be a good cog? Can I be the best cog I can be? And is this something I will learn from? And I think for me, the draw was, it was following Rowan Atkinson. So really, if it was good enough for Rowan Atkinson, it's good enough for me. He's one of my heroes. I'm sandwiched between him and Griff Rhys Jones, who's coming after me. So it's definitely artistically something that's worth doing. And second of all, I think what was very important is to do a long run of something and then develop a character where it's not me being a comedian, it's me playing a character. So can I do the best possible Fagin? And I think I've done 80 performances and I've got 64 to go. Not that I'm counting. I'm not counting. You can see the scratches on my prison wall here. But I do believe that if you want to create something, you have to do it night after night. And it is still different every night, and it is better. I think it's getting better, and I think that I'm finding myself as an actor. I'm finding myself as company leader, which is a whole new responsibility. I'm finding myself being with other actors. Musical theatre, they're a little bit different. Like, I got some very good reviews, and they said, "Why are you being so modest about your reviews? We'd be splashing them everywhere." And as a joke, I said, "Well, look, I don't want people to know, because then that's all you get offered." I've just been offered lead giraffe in The Lion King. And you know what they said? They went, "Congratulations. Well done." So I've been quiet about the reviews because it was just an experience I wanted to have and to enjoy and to savour. That's all I wanted. So I think that when you say I've come into burst into people's consciousness, I think it's because I probably did have something to say, and to have longevity, I would like to keep it fresh. That's why I will go off and do a film. That's why we'll come and do a musical, because it gives you fodder to do stand-up comedy. It's good. I've taken a break. From stand-up comedy. I've done this, and then I'm going to release my film The Infidel, which is going to come. I'm going to do publicity stuff for that. I'm going to do another film after that, and then probably come back to stand-up comedy end of 2010. I mean, look at Eddie Izzard. Look at what he did. He's just announced a tour now. He's coming back, and that was a good, 5 years? So I think you have to live life before you can talk about it.
I mean, he's just spent 2 years walking. He's not been doing anything.
Did he walk or run? I'm not sure. What a lazy git. I thought he ran all these marathons. No, I think he's definitely somebody who I've always looked up to. I think he's a wonderful human being. I think that comes across. And I think people want that. You know, in football, people say, "Oh no, I haven't got any more characters anymore." And I think that, you know, I'd like to think I'm part of a new wave of characters who've come in, and to mention them, the people like, probably Bill Bailey's a bit earlier than people like myself, Dara O'Brien, Tommy Tin, and the Ed Byrne. There's our crop, there's our generation of people who I think are the ones breaking through. I mean, I always see myself as breaking through, but you've just said to me you've some established star or something. I never see myself as. I always see myself as that was my first musical, and I'm establishing myself. So I think that's the key. Always find things where you're establishing yourself and you're growing as an artist.
He's the former Fagin in Oliver. He's going to be in Sex and the City 2 this year, and he's Omid Djalili. Next, I asked him about his childhood, and was he funny and peculiar?
No, I wasn't. I think I was pretty much... I'll tell you something, actually, now that you've just said that. I can tell you with great surprise that when I was asked, "What do you want to be when you're older?" I was 6 years old. I remember my 3 uncles. My mother had 3 brothers, 4 actually, but 3 of them were there at the time. And they said, "What do you want to be?" And I remember saying, "I want to be a joker." And they said, "Oh, you want to be a funny man, do you?" And I went, "No, I want to be a joker, like in the deck of cards, like a joker." And they said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, in the pack of cards I have, the jokers, there were 2 jokers, the same picture of basically a man dressed in a very flamboyant costume and would look directly at you and would put his finger on his nose." And I thought that he knows something. The finger on the nose says, "I know something, I'm in the know." He knows something that we don't. So it was my expression of saying, I want to be revealed all the secrets of the universe, and I want to be an intelligent person and someone who is informed. Later on, I thought that was a career in astrophysics, but I failed maths O-level, so I couldn't do it. But they all said, "Oh, he's a funny man." So then I got this tag of being a funny kid, and it was more, "You are the funny one." But then again, I didn't think I was that funny at school. Everyone thought I was the funny one, but there was a boy called Sasha Babic, who was a Yugoslav Serbian boy. I thought he was the funniest boy, and I was best friends with him, but he made me laugh more, and I was more the kid observing him being funny, and I think he influenced my sense of humour a lot. But he never became a comedian, just had a life in, I think, holidays and tour operators and all that. But I think I was very much the kid who observed the funny kid, and then I became the funny kid. But for some reason in my family and in my extended family and the Iranian community, they always thought I was the funny kid for some reason. I never saw I thought I was a real deep thinker who had a thirst for knowledge and then wanted to be in the know. So that's why I like the joke, but everyone thought he's the funny man. So I think that was my childhood experience of being funny, because to be honest with you, Alex, I never really even was aware of stand-up comedy until my wife said to me, why don't you become a stand-up comedian? I remember saying, what's that? And she said to me, let me take you. And she took me to the Comedy Store in 1994. This is the first time I saw stand-up comedians. I'm thinking, I said, this is the kind of thing that Jimmy Tarbuck does. Or yes, I understand. Is that what stand-up comedy is? Just standing and telling stories? They went, yeah. But then I went to the Comedy Store and I thought that was different. They were alternative stand-ups who I thought were viscerally funny. They're not allowed on TV. These are the visceral. These are the really fun. It's a bit like you see women in bikinis on TV, but there are like strip clubs where you see them naked. The comedy clubs where you see naked comedy. I get it now. And I remember writing in my diary, I went to the Comedy Store tonight, and there was a man called Lee Hurst, who I think is the owner. That's what you think. You think the MC is the owner. He owns the club. He's really funny. He should be on TV. And then about a few months later, he did They Think It's All Over. I said, I knew it. So I didn't know anything about stand-up comedy. So I fell into it. And I think, as one of the comics told me, he goes, there's something about you that's fallen into it. If you look at all the naturals, he goes, not that I'm comparing you to Billy Connolly, but Billy Connolly was a musician, fell into stand-up comedy. And I think I fell into it. I naturally gravitated towards it. And also, I never 100% felt comfortable around actors, whereas the comedians I felt were more real and were just straight talking, and I like that. I actually always preferred comedians to actors, and actually right now I'm comfortable with both, but at that time when you're finding yourself, I found the vulnerabilities and the honesty of comedians fresher to me.
We're back with Omid on your favourite local radio station. It's Alex talking to a man who really is unique in show business. There aren't many stand-up comedians who can act well and do movies. They might do it for a bit, but they're caught out. You seem to have made it in all three very successfully. Do you find the discipline of something like a musical, like Oliver, frustrating? Because there really isn't the room for you to be you, is there?
It's not frustrating, but it is a very different discipline, because I just finished a film and I literally went from the film onto rehearsals for Oliver. And in the film, everything was like, bring it down, smaller, and we were trying to sculpt a very real performance. And I've seen the screenings. It's for the film called The Infidel, and it's a very, very different performance to then Fagin, which is all tits and teeth. And they kept saying in rehearsal, you're going to have to speak a bit louder. And this isn't Marlon Brando doing Fagin. Everything has got to be bigger. And I thought, well, how big do you want it to be? They said, well, have you seen the theatre? It's 4 tiers of people. You have to make things big. And it was only in the first 2 weeks of actually performing it, I realised certain subtleties were totally missed. And I really had to telegraph the jokes, make things bigger. Even now, I've tried to mix it up a bit and throw some jokes away. It doesn't work. They just won't work. And even the clarity. And it's not performing for kids. It's not. It's just theatre. Musical theatre is you can keep it real but clear. And I think that's where people make the mistake. They think you've got to make it big, and it seems like musical theatre acting because it's very clear but also rather ridiculous. You can make it real but make it clear. And I think that was the discipline that coming from film to the musical, well, you can't get, as far as acting is concerned, you can't get more diametrically opposed disciplines. So I think I'm not really bothered about being me or not. It's not, because the jokes land better if they are more as Fagin. Once you see, actually a couple of times I did come out of character and would tell the audience things, and it didn't work. And actually the audience go, oh, don't do that. Stay in character. So I've tried to keep it really, I've thrown some jokes in, which when you see, you'll see a kind of very stand-up comedy-ish, although it's in acting with Bill Sykes, but you can tell there's a comedy rhythm there's a stand-up comedy rhythm to the jokes, but they work better if they are genuinely as Fagin. So it's Fagin wisecracking. It's not me.
Because it's actually a tough venue. It's the biggest venue in the West End in terms of musical theatre, and it's a quite quiet show, although it's a massive production.
To be honest, I've always felt that the sets and the scenery completely overshadow any acting at all, because they spent about £1 million, £2 million on the sets. The sets move around. You get St Paul's. You get all these amazing scenes of London which move around in the background. So you do feel like a small cog, but at the same time, I feel it's a show that is massively entertaining, and I've been told now there's a lot of heart to it as well. I mean, when Nancy gets killed, and I think for my relationship with the kids, it has to be really, for you to buy into Fagin, you have to buy into the fact the kids love him. So that's why this particular version of Fagin is a very gaggy Fagin, and if you notice, he makes the kids laugh as well, whereas other things you see that the kids are entertained by him, they don't really laugh at him. So we're trying to make him a funny Fagin so that the kids love him. So understand why Oliver would stay, and why all the kids would stay, because in the book, if one of the kids is out of line, they end up in the Thames, and Fagin's a very nasty piece of work who does get hanged at the end. But it's a musical, and it's all about it's all big and flashing teeth.
He gets hanged in a showbiz way.
Well, actually, no. In this one, Lionel Bart, being Jewish, what he does, if you notice, that Fagin in the film goes off with Dodger, and they go dodging together somewhere else. But in this one, he's alone, and he's moved, and he's upset by the fact that Nancy's died. He's renounced, and he's going to change, and it shows Jewish pride. And if you see the way I walk off, he's crumpled and he walks with him, but then he transforms as he walks, and he gets more upright. So you see the Jewish pride and the universal theme of personal transformation, which is what happens to Fagin, but is not with the book at all. It's Lionel Bart's pro-Jewish, and of course, and I tell you this as well. One last thing, there's been some controversy about me being an Iranian, and I think it's important to say I'm not a Muslim, but I'm an Iranian, which my government has said that Israel should be wiped off the face of the planet. So it is very controversial. But I had Rabbi Solomon of Westminster Synagogue said, he goes, I saw your show. I can tell you, I've seen them all. I've seen all the Fagins. You are the most pro-Jewish Fagin I've seen. I love the walk off at the end, and I love the way you throw bits of Yiddish in as well, and I love it, and it's funny. It's the most pro-Jewish Fagin he'd ever seen. So I feel very happy that the Jews are not going to pelt me with nuts. The Jews do like what I'm doing, which is, I think, very important. Episode 1 of the Omid Djalili show goes out on a Monday night, 10:35. The first news item that day, back in May, or was it April, was President Ahmadinejad denouncing Israel, saying Israel was a racist government. You had France, Germany, Switzerland, all these governments walk out, and you've got Syria and Jordan going, well, hey, in the background. And then they said, ladies and gentlemen, now the Omid Djalili show. I think BBC had 126 complaints. So I think this is a joke that you're having an Iranian comic's got his own show. So I'm aware that there are perceptions that when people, the thing is, not everyone knows me. You know me, you like what I do, you trust me. I'm a British Iranian. I'm trying to be funny. I'm trying to say something of some use to society. A lot of people don't know me. They think it's a big joke, an Iranian comic. He can't be funny. What's that all about? And after Ahmadinejad, what's going on? And I used to get that. It's all about lower expectation. When I first started doing comedy clubs, people say, now we've got an Iranian comedian. And people go, oh, they'll be like, oh, what's funny about that? So it's always about, and that's why I think the reviews have been good for Fagin. Expectation was low. I can't wait for the next project where people think I'm going to be rubbish.
We're back with Omid Djalili. I've got to talk to you about this Jodie Prenger, because you're opposite her every night in Oliver. Are you at all distracted?
Distracted by what aspect of her?
Just Jodie. I mean, she's such a big personality, and there's so much of her, and she's so giving.
No, I think actually we have three. We have three Nancys, and I would say that she's the one that makes the most eye contact with me. Actually, even when other kids are saying things, she's always looking up at Fagin, and that distracted me at the first, because I thought, well, just do your stuff, I'll do my stuff, and we can just leave. But she's constantly acting, and I think that I like that, and now we know where the moments are where we, even in the curtain call, we always look at each other when we think we don't want to have no fuss. We always look at each other at that moment, ironically, like as if, bloody hell, we've gone through a lot of fuss to get to this moment. But no, distracting. I think she's one of the loveliest people I've ever met, and my wife absolutely adores her, thinks she's fantastic. And I never saw the reality TV show. I wasn't even aware that she won. All I thought, oh, there's a girl playing Nancy. Was she good? People said she's great, and then I thought she was great. I saw her, I thought she's great, and I worked with her. She's great.
But she is gorgeous. Do you think she'd ever marry me?
That's a really good question. Do you have any kind of relationship with her?
Well, I mean, we have an email relationship. I'd say we're friends. We're not picking out curtains or anything. But
I think you're in. I think you're in, definitely.
Because she is gorgeous, let's face it.
She is. She's very, very good looking. But you know what? I saw her. My daughter said, we've just seen Jodie Prenger on... Is it Prenger? Prenger.
She likes Prenger, but I like Prenger.
Yeah. Like Pringles. That's one way to her heart, I'll tell you that much. Get a few Pringles, give them to Prenger. Pringles for Prenger. She, we saw her on this thing, which was a fat beauty contest when she was something like 23 stone. And when you look at it, you still think, I would.
2 tons of fun.
2 tons of fun. She's very overweight in that. But she's lost about, I think, must be about 8 stone. She must be about 12 stone now, or one more. She's probably lost about 10 stone. And she's a nutritionist as well, which is interesting. So she's applied herself, but she was in this fat beauty contest and she was beautiful. Really.
And what about you? I'm noticing you're wasting away to nothing here.
I'm not wasting away, Alex, but the thing is, when we first did rehearsal, I've got to pop up through a porthole and I couldn't get through. For the purposes of the show. And also there's a bit where they call me an avaricious old skeleton. I said, you're going to have to change that. So I'm now officially an avaricious old toad. And I tell you what, when Bill Sykes calls me that, it gets a laugh. Because they just know he's not lost the way, has he? Come and see the show and I defy you. There's a titter from the audience because they know he's too fat, because we know the script. Everyone says he's a skeleton. Fagin has always been a skeleton, but I'm a toad. I'm the first toad.
Where is the most pressure? Walking out by yourself to do stand-up comedy, or being part of this ensemble where you can't stop because the band's going to carry on?
There's more pressure. And there's been moments where, in reviewing the situation, I've dropped something and I've gone back for it, and then the music has stopped and I haven't... I mean, you should be controlling the orchestra, but there's a bit where I couldn't control them, and I actually told them to stop, and they started up again. I said, "Oh, no, I'm not ready." And the audience are laughing, but they think. But now I've relaxed into it that it's not such a, because they scare you. They say now, the musical director Brooker says, he goes, "Now listen, you." He goes, "This is when they press that go light, it's go, and you do not stop." He goes, "And you have to sing the song. Sing it. It's a musical after all. It's not a scenical. It's not a handkerchiefical." I thought, you can't write this stuff. It's not a handkerchiefical. It's a musical.
He didn't say that.
He actually said that. And he loves me for saying it in interviews as well. And he would say, it's a big train. You've got to jump on the train. The train will not wait for you. But actually, I've thought, hang on. I've thrown a couple of children in front of that train at the level crossing, and the train has stopped. And I've brought the show to a stop on 2 occasions already. But it's scary, but at the same time, you have to relax. That even when the show breaks down, the automation doesn't work. They just put the calls down to Legend. We have a technical difficulty. And once it's happened, at first I panicked. I thought, this is terrible. But actually you think, no, it doesn't matter. The audience loves it and it doesn't really matter. Nothing really, you just think nothing matters. Life, nothing really matters. When you make mistakes, we've just made a mistake. And I always remember footballers saying the most important thing for a striker, for you to actually score goals, is take away the fear of making a mistake. You make a mistake, you move on. You miss 3 goals, you score the next one. You'll be loved for that 1 goal and it's a winning goal, and people will forget that you've missed 5 or 6. So I think, I've been amazed at the cheer I get as Fagin when I've been really bad. I've made mistake after mistake. I've fallen over, I've tripped over my coat, I've done all kinds of things. I've missed lines, I let the music run on and I've forgotten lines. But people forget. If you hit other things, people do forget, and they won't say he's been off. They'll just look at the whole thing as, oh, that was a great show. And people are genuinely quite forgiving in a big show. I think even in a stand-up comedy show, you can mess up jokes because it's like bang, bang, there's a science to it, and sometimes your timing will be off. But the key thing is not to acknowledge that you've done it, just move on and just think, oh, that in your mind, it should have got a laugh, but it didn't, but you move on.
Because we don't know what you're thinking, do we?
Nobody knows that. No, of course. People, very rarely do people notice mistakes. There was once my coat got stuck in the trap door, and I stepped on the trap door without noticing it, so it really got wedged in, and there's only one hole to put your finger into, and I couldn't. So I was there trying to pull it out, and I was rolling on the ground, and people thought this was the most elaborate. Apparently, in half time, people were saying, "Oh," and he thought, how insulting to think he thought we didn't realise that was part of the show, but it genuinely was. So people can't notice when there's a mistake, and you just have to. Then that relaxes you as a performer.
We're back with top comedian Omid Djalili. Next, I asked him, where does his on-stage confidence come from?
That's a very good question, actually, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot because I've been doing comedy now for about 14, 13, 14 years. And I was very nervous at the beginning, but strangely, I was a bit ignorant. Ignorance can also be something that releases you. So I'd go out with massive confidence with very little jokes. I'd go out there with a big smile and bang out a few one-liners that weren't very good. And I don't think I was very good at all, but somehow I'll get a few laughs and a round of applause, and I think I was brilliant. And I've looked back at some of those tapes, and I can tell you, hand on heart, I was not. I was actually S-H-I-T. I don't know if I can say it, but I really was terrible. So then I re-evaluated everything. But then I realized that, as in life, a lot of it is about confidence. I think if you have confidence and self-belief, and I think if you look, I'm a big football fan, so I like that. I always watch how the teams with more self-belief, and actually the whole thing of faith in your own belief can affect the positivity of how you're doing something. So there'll be times when I'm doing warm-up shows, I don't believe in jokes, and you have to deliver something 100%. And then when you do get the response that you want, then you really believe in it. And then I think what you saw was me believing in all those little bits put together, and then you deliver it with 100% conviction. So confidence, faith, and conviction are the most important aspects of a performer's life, I think, and that can fluctuate with your life, but if you can always remember that, you'll always be relatively successful in what you do, I think.
And also, you can't overanalyze what people like about you. It's often not the material, it's the character and person you are.
Yeah, I think the stand-up comedy is about 90% your personality and your delivery, and 10% of it is the material. I've seen some comedians with very little material and just be mesmerizing to watch. And then I've seen some comics who have fantastic material and you think, yeah, good jokes, but I would have done it better. Do you know what I mean? And you shouldn't do that. And I've some comedians who got absolutely brilliant jokes, but they lack the performance. So I think that's always been the struggle. And I think for me, it's always been about the material. Try and get the right material. Try and know who you are, know what you want to say. And I've always struggled with that. So rather than hire writers, I work with some comedians who are very close to me. So we work in a room together. It's so much more fun to punch up, because I'll talk about something I really want to talk about, and often we'll find it very hard to find the punchline, but we'll find it together. So I'm obviously part of the writing process, and it's what all the things I want to say, but I will find that I need help from other comedians to help me just punch stuff up and make it a little bit sharper. But nothing beats your own kind of, there's some really stupid things I do, which can, and you know that, only I could do that. And I think an audience loves that as well. They can probably tell. I think a real sharp comedy enthusiast will think, Omid's been helped with that. And that's good to say that. It's good to, because I haven't written everything myself, but it's all come from the right place. And then there'll some things people say, that's pure Omid. And I wish there was more of that, but it's hard. It's hard to fill, an hour and 40 minutes.
Do you have any intention to come back to the West End and do more musical theatre?
Well, it's a very good question. Someone told me, because we're not all Nancy boys here. We've actually we've got a football team. I said, who are you playing? Because we're playing Hairspray next week. I said, that'd be a bloodbath. Can you imagine? Oliver versus Hairspray. I think it's good because then they get to see you and you might get to be in their show, kind of thing. So I don't know. I think that Cameron McIntosh has been very, very, he's said that he's mentioned a couple of things he'd like to do in the future. The obvious one I've been getting is play Reptevia in Fiddler on the Roof. That's something I would like to do sometime. Max Bialystock in The Producers, that's something. See, this is a whole world. I would go and watch musicals and I love it. But you enjoy it because you never think I could do that. Never. That's why I've enjoyed musicals before. I think there's nothing I would ever do. I wouldn't even touch a musical. But now that I've got a taste for it, you think, well, actually, I wouldn't mind doing it. And I have, unlike a lot of people, I do enjoy the longer run. I do enjoy, this is the first time in my life I get some kind of regularity and regiment in my life. I know I wake up in the morning, I know what I'm going to do. It's not Groundhog Day, but it is, I like that kind of systematic lifestyle. I like that. So I think in general, it's something I would like to do, yeah.
Is it also knowing that you're probably not going to fail unless the show completely stops? It's unlikely you're not going to get a standing ovation. Whereas with comedy, there can be bad nights. I mean, this is such a polished production, whether you're in it or not. There's a safety net there.
We don't get a standing ovation every night. We get a nice ovation. There's always a good cheer. It's only in America They say the definition of a nerd is the guy who starts the standing ovation. There's always somebody starts. They stand for everything. But I think, I must say, we have had standing ovations, but to have had a standing ovation for my own show obviously is more satisfying and is more, because it's something you've written, you've directed, you've put it together. But it is very, very gratifying to be part of a company and to be a cog. I like that. I like the camaraderie, and I like the fact that we have all done this together. I like that. So that's why I would do it again. But it has made me yearn. I actually feel less nervous about doing stand-up comedy now. I do, because I think this is actually hard. It's not easy. And I wish, there's one thing I wish I'd seen Eddie Izzard do Lenny Bruce. He did a Lenny Bruce thing a few years ago. I think it was 11 years ago he did that. I would like to do something like that, where there's a play of... when I went to see The Shawshank Redemption, I thought that was fun. And they've actually, the producer said, would you like to be in it? We might get you in it. That's something I would, again, think about. But I do love live theatre. I do love the live experience. Nothing really beats it. As a night out, it's fabulous. And people come away from Oliver really having had a good time. I had a friend recently come along, and they were saying, I'm loving this. I'm just loving every minute. I was so sad when it was over, and they were on a high afterwards, a real genuine high. I laughed, I cried, and I sang along to this music. It's like a football crowd in there. Everyone's just singing, I can't see yourself. It's like a football crowd. It's fantastic.
You're coming across as incredibly needy, that if you don't get your round of applause every day, you're somehow going to be a manic depressive.
I'm so needy. I'm actually begging the audience. They don't know I'm mouthing. People say, what are you mouthing? And I'm mouthing, do you like me? Please like me.
All right, before we go, let's just talk about you being the mega star that you are today, because you've been in some huge films. Does it ever become normal when you meet the really big stars? I'm not talking about people in Britain that only we know, but I'm talking about people who around the world are international megastars. Does that ever become normal?
First of all, I'm not a megastar. Let's be very clear about that. I've had a few small bits in a few big movies, and I've been very lucky to do that. But you cannot say I'm a megastar. So let's make that very clear. But I have worked with some megastars, and they are the ones who are really at the top of their game. You will find they are, I mean, it's a cliche to say that, but they are usually the most gracious, the most humble, and actually ultimately the most interesting people, because they've got to a certain level and they must have had something about them. They must have an X factor or an intelligence or something tremendously charismatic about them. I felt that certainly with Brad Pitt when I met with him. I thought, you are a very charismatic and very nice individual, and I enjoyed spending time with him. There's on the film Spy Game, equally so Robert Redford. I thought he was really presidential, and in fact I heard that Bill Clinton would be seeing tapes of Robert Redford to learn how to be more presidential. When Robert Redford walked into a room, you almost felt like standing up, because it was like, the president is here. He's got that kind of aura about him. Having worked with Whoopi Goldberg for 9 months in America, I found her to be extremely with it, and she's someone who was a drug addict and lived homeless. She was a homeless person in Central Park for about 6 months, I think. So there's a heart to her that you can only find irresistible. And I know she kind of splits people. Some people love her, some people really don't like her at all. And I was ambivalent towards her, but I really came to love her for what she is, because I found her one of the most savvy, intelligent and with it people I'd ever met. But again, very, very... And she explained to me, she said, listen, honey, when we finish, if this show gets cancelled, we're friends now, but I've got such a heavy life. I've got grandchildren. I've got this. Don't expect me to return all your calls. Don't expect me to write emails. That's just the way the business is. And I understood that. So other cast members saying, well, Whoopi did not answer my email. I left 4 messages for her. I think that's off. And I'd say, no, this is people have very, very busy lives, and you can't keep up with every single person. It's just time. We don't have the time. And I think that's one thing I've learned about them. They've all got extremely busy lives. They're very good people, but the ones who fail ultimately, the ones who've surrounded themselves with too many people, like MC Hammer. Look at him. He did Can't Touch This, and what happened? He made millions. He had so many hangers on. He was taking the cleaners. He now owes $3 million or something. He's gone into hiding because he's surrounded himself with the wrong people. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to surround yourself with people who will tell you what the good thing is. I surrounded myself with people who advised me to do Fagin. Between you and me, Alex, I didn't want to do it. I thought, I can't handle this. I can't sing. I can't dance. I'm no good. I'm not going to follow Rowan Atkinson. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get hammered. And they all said, no, we think you should do this. It'll be very good for you. And my wife also said, it's a good break from stand-up. And, you know, I think you should do something that the kids would enjoy. Because the kids never come and see you. They want to come and see you do something. Do this. This would be perfect for them. So I think and variety is the spice of life. But when you're talking about those stars, they've also said the same thing. Keep things varied. And they're very good with advice as well. You know, if you get into normal conversation, they will pass on as I'm doing with you right now. I'm passing on my information that variety is a spice of life, and my perception of all these so-called high-level people. They're very real. And I'll finish with this one quick story. I've said this before, but in case you haven't, but they're very witty people as well. I tried to be funny with Robert Redford. When I was introduced to him, I thought I'd crack a joke. He goes, Omid, this is Robert, this is Omid playing Dumay. And he said, he goes, hi. And what they do, they look you in there, he goes, it's very nice to meet you. And I said, Mr. Redford, may I say, I'm a huge fan. You are the best thing in Hawaii 5-0. It's my favorite show. You and Jack Lord, you are a dynamic duo. And he said, thank you. He goes, may I say you were great in Dr. Zhivago, but you've let yourself go. And I thought, whoa, this guy's quick. After a little beat, he just thought, hang on, what am I dealing with here? And he thinks that he's funny. How about this? So my experience is a lot of them are the very sharp cookies. Robert Redford is the sharpest cookie I've ever met.
Omid Djalili, thank you very much for talking to us. Your new DVD, Live in London, is in your stores now, and Sex in the City 2 will be out later this year along with The Infidel. Really nice to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will say it's called Live in London only because I couldn't think of anything else.